Well, hello there. You're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the Daily Mirror columnist Kevin Maguire and the political commentator Adam Bolton with us from now until just before midnight. Welcome and great to see both of you.
Hello.
So let's check out the front pages, shall we? Kicking off with The Guardian. President Trump's suggestion that he may or may not use American bunker-busting bombs to target Iran's nuclear capabilities is top story for The Guardian. The Sun pictures the leaders of the US and Iran with the headline, War of the Words. The Times raises the possibility of the UK supporting the US in any strike on Iran. The Telegraph, though, says that the UK Attorney General, Lord Hermer, has warned the Prime Minister that it could be illegal. The Metro highlights part of President Trump's name to drive home the threat of all-out war, the headline, Armageddon. But while Mr Trump is threatening Iran, the Eye reports that the UK is trying to delay an increase in defence spending to 5% of GDP until 2035. Financial Times leads with the warning from the US to the UK about the possible security risks of using a Chinese company to supply turbines for wind farms in the North Sea. In the week, the new assisted dying bill goes before Parliament again. The Express speaks to the daughter of terminally ill TV presenter and campaigner Dame Esther Rantzen, who says passing the bill would be a wonderful present for mum. While the new bill to cut welfare spending will, according to the Daily Mail, cause the benefits bill to rocket by £18 billion a year. The Mirror too leads on that bill, with critics claiming that cuts in personal independence payments would be a catastrophe for up to 800,000 people. And finally, The Star reports that racing fans are furious that a statue of jockey Frankie Dettori was left surrounded by rubbish bins at Royal Ascot. So let's bring in Kevin and Adam. Many of the newspapers again leading on the situation in Iran, and quite a clever headline from the front of the Sun, Kevin.
It is very good. It's impactful front page, War of the Words, picking out Donald Trump saying Iran has got a lot of trouble unless it surrenders.
Very big.
Yeah, well, yeah, the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says it would show no mercy to its enemies. I think it's good. And it's quite refreshing in a way, because I suspect if these front pages were about 10, 15 years ago, it would be mad mullahs. Well, of course, we've moved on from that, and it's on a knife edge. And, the world is watching with bated breath about what's going to happen now.
Yeah, I mean, the Sun says Middle East on the brink, but I mean, the really striking thing about that front page is this is world pieces in the hands of these two belligerent old men. I mean, pretty shocking, which is what you can see there.
Well, you can see Israel's gone out of the picture there.
Yeah,
it's now Trump confronting Iran rather than Israel.
and he has been using the term "we" about the attacks, so he's clearly identifying with Israel.
And the whole point is, if you want to get to some of the hidden nuclear systems that Iran has in the Fordo area, you need the American bunker-busting bombs, enormous bombs carried by the B-2 bombers that would have to fly, 30 hours, I think, from Missouri. Yeah. The Financial Times, if we jump ahead, actually has a photo on the top of it. If the US decides to join Israel, the paper says, in its war against Iran, one of the American military's key weapons is a 30,000-pound precision-guided bomb that could be capable of destroying much of Iran's underground uranium enrichment facilities. I mean, suggestion that it's never been used before. I know. I mean, it's really...
It's never been tried.
Never been tried, yeah, exactly.
So can it do what they bill? I mean, this takes me...
Can it go deep enough?
Yeah, well, if indeed we're going to find out, but it takes me back to the Iraq War. I know precision weapons will minimise civilian casualties, and then you find out lots of civilians killed.
We don't
It
know
looks like it's been driven there, but of course it's just they're manoeuvring it.
I mean, they're saying that this... weapons center at Fordo may be half a mile underground on this. So, and I think the defence experts are saying actually it wouldn't be just one that would do the trick. You'd need repeated,
probably on the same
launching of these bombs on the same point. Got to hit it, and they're called massive ordnance penetrator bombs, MOPs, or GBU-27. Yeah. And interestingly, that picture which it seems to be the only picture around, is actually 2 years old.
I mean, it's fascinating. They also suggest that this MOP, or MOP, is the world's most powerful non-nuclear bomb and is able to penetrate more than 60 metres of rock before exploding. Now, does that get down to your, half mile down, as the suggestion is? But, who knows? Currently, no B-2 bombers in the Middle East region, although there are B-52 bombers based at Diego Garcia. We know that the British Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, had a Cobra meeting today. Whether they discussed the use of Diego Garcia, we don't know. A very, very anodyne statement, in fact, came out of that meeting earlier. But is it significant that the Americans might need to base themselves in Diego Garcia or even Cyprus for any of this operation?
Well, Michael Clark was saying on Sky News earlier on that actually they could do the round trip from Missouri with bombs. Or they could go to Diego Garcia. I think the thing is, and the question that, in the other stories that the Attorney General is talking about is, when America does these missions, it tends to like to show that it's got the support of allies by bringing in possibly British bases. And since the dropping of this bomb is untested, they obviously, they can say they can get to Missouri and back, but they may, unforeseen things may happen, and in that case, they will need probably to use bases in maybe British bases. There are also American air bases in the Gulf countries as well, but of course that then raises the question they wouldn't want to go there.
I suspect Keir Starmer and David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, are just terrified Trump is going to ask the UK to join in, because it will create so many problems both in the Labour Party and the country as a whole if Britain gets involved in a US military action.
But also,
given past history,
but I can't see him saying no, though, if he doesn't.
No, well, you can imagine Trump that you want me to support Ukraine, you want me to support Zelensky, you've now got to support me. I know I said I was the president who was going to get involved in war and I was going to end all wars, but this is a bit different.
Yeah.
No, Starmer will just be, please,
and it has been
repeatedly
stated by ministers that we don't want Iran to have a bomb. And it seems to be we've almost got to the situation where the only way it's going to stop, unless they come up with a complete surrender, as Donald Trump has asked, the only way to stop it appears to be to use that big bomb.
Well, Britain was a signatory to the agreement, the international agreement that Obama oversaw, and Trump then pulled on Iran would have a peaceful civil program, but wouldn't go into a nuclear bomb area in return for sanctions being lifted. Trump got shot of it. And we are where we are now.
Well, the suggestion is, I think this came from a German diplomatic source speaking to the Reuters news agency, that actually there was a meeting planned for this Friday.
Yeah.
The foreign ministers of Germany, France and Britain plan to hold nuclear talks with their Iranian counterparts. Now, if this is the tease to make the decision to move forward, because the Wall Street Journal reporting tonight, actually, that President Trump told senior aides on Tuesday that he approved of attack plans for Iran. He was holding off giving any order to see if Tehran would abandon its nuclear program. Trump is hoping that threatening to join Israel's strikes on Iran, which continue for the sixth day, soon to be seventh, will compel Tehran to meet his demands. Now, he carries that on with the I may not statements today, but so has the Ayatollah as well, suggesting we will never surrender. We will not, grovel at the floor of the White House.
But I think this is an occasion when Donald Trump is telling the truth, when he said, I may do, I may not, and then the next thing
he may not know.
And then he said, I don't know.
He said, you don't know what I'm doing, but the implication was that he may not know.
He wasn't clear.
I don't know,
And I think he is torn, because, as we know, there are people in the MAGA movement who are saying, it's Israel's war, America first, we shouldn't get involved, we're isolationists. But others who are saying to him, and he seems to have picked up on this, that this is a golden opportunity because Iran's allies are weak. The Israelis say they've established their superiority. So if you're going to do it, now's the time.
Well, Iran is weak. So Israel's got nuclear weapons itself, doesn't officially admit it, hasn't signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty, but it's also got incredibly effective armed forces, while Iran doesn't. Iran can export terrorism, it can fire rockets, missiles, some hypersonic missiles, but they're no match for
But the
Israel.
difference from this conflict for previous ones in the Middle East is there's no question of ground troops. So in that sense, Trump, who is risk averse, won't be facing casualties, body bags if he goes ahead with it.
But as you said, the MAGA questions continue from the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, etc., strong voices who are very against this. The Situation Room meeting has just ended, we're told, so that was just about roughly an hour, I think, that they were back meeting again. Meantime, we go back to the Daily Telegraph that you mentioned, Adam, which is whether or not or how the UK might be involved. Or Sir Keir Starmer has been warned that UK involvement in a US attack on Iran could be illegal. Takes us back to the Iraq War, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All this phraseology.
Well, we were having a bit of a laugh about it, that, Lord Hermer is supposed to be Keir Starmer's best friend. He brought him into politics. He hadn't been a politician before. And let's put it this way, what we hear of his comments are not helpful to the government particularly.
Well, they may help them if they stop them doing something rash and reckless.
But actually, the headline is slightly overdone. What he appears to be saying is there could be a problem if the UK were to join in attacks, but actually facilitating the Americans to attack is much more of a grey area. And the Times has got the same story, but has interpreted the advice the other way. Britain could support...
Yeah, I don't know if we've got the Times, actually, but if not, we'll get it later.
Yeah.
But yes, do continue, Adam.
Britain could support the US to strike Iran from the air following discussions. I mean, it's quite clear, Keir Starmer came straight back from the G7 in Canada, had this Cobra meeting. We understand that Lord Mandelson had flown, the British ambassador to America had flown in. So they've obviously had a very detailed discussion of their options, but not really any signs they're putting the brakes on, are there?
Yeah, and just quickly, if you don't mind, because there's a lot to get through tonight. The UK tries to delay NATO 5% defence pledge. President Putin has been speaking at an economic forum tonight, saying the decision to use military force in Ukraine does not mean Russia is going to attack Eastern Europe. He's also been talking about, there's so many drops on this, to be fair, NATO's increase in defence spending does not make any sense, he has said, and would make no difference. So he talked about Iran, he's talking about Ukraine as well, so there's a lot from President Putin tonight too. But, this becomes tricky, doesn't it, given the demands or the state of the world?
Well,
I suppose.
I mean, this is ahead of the big NATO summit next week. And all that the UK is saying is, well, could we say we want to go for 5%, but actually stretch it out from 2032 to 2035? So what they're basically saying is we don't want to be explicitly embarrassed by the NATO Secretary General. Yeah. So you may listen.
OK. And Putin has also just said Trump is right when saying that the Ukraine war would never have happened had he been the president. So he'll love that.
Oh, God. Well, suck up to him like that, a bit of flannel, and you can just carry on killing Ukrainians. Yeah.
He did say that... believe me, I have no intention of invading Ukraine.
You had, the fate of the world in the hands of Putin, Trump, Netanyahu and Khamenei. Oh, my God, dear.
We'll move on then after the break, I think, after that. Discussing the front of the Daily Mail as the government faces a major rebellion over its plans to reform the welfare system. That and more after this.
Paris reverberated to the sights, sounds and smells of conflict. There's a focal point to all this anger, and that is Emmanuel Macron. I'm Adam Parsons, Sky's Europe correspondent based here in Brussels. There are dozens of people desperately clambering to get onto that boat. It is a chaotic scene, but it's being watched by dozens of French police officers on the beach. I've reported on migration across Europe, close up on the ground, understanding that sense of desperation and meeting the criminal gangs behind it. This old fishing boat set off from the Libyan port of Tobruk. There were 606 people who were on board. So we've been distributing life jackets to all the people on board this boat, and now the first person is coming on board. This is the ugly side of Italian football.
In Italy, everything is really organized.
Football's problems with hooliganism, racism were just dormant, and now they're back and they're getting worse. We cover so many countries, languages and cultures and work hard to gain trust to bring you the full story first. Help is slowly reaching these places. It's not just homes, but whole streets like this one that have been reduced to rubble and dust. This is a picture of destruction. Everywhere you look in this mountaintop community, there is absolute devastation. These are the settlers in waiting, keen to start a new life, to annex Gaza for Israel.
The least we can do is just kick them out of our land.
Gaza, which is just 2 miles in that direction, is under attack again. Getting the chance to tell people's stories, it's a privilege.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.
The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks.
If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach. This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
We're rolling.
Welcome to the world.
Our new podcast. It's starting now. It's very exciting. Every week we'll be reporting from the world's trouble spots.
We get to hold those in positions of power accountable, and we get to ask the questions that the audience, the listeners, want to know about.
And that's why it is so important that people tune in, come along for the road, come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
Well, you're watching the Press Preview, joined again by the Daily Mirror columnist Kevin Maguire and the political commentator Adam Bolton. Let's go to welfare cuts, shall we? 2 newspapers, contrasting views on this. There's the Daily Mail, suggesting that the benefits bill is on course to rocket by 18 billion. That says a year there. And meantime, your paper, Kevin, the PIP cuts, the personal independence payments, is a catastrophe. 800,000 set to suffer.
Yeah, look, it's the battle of the cuts and the briefings. And the Daily Mail, which backed the Conservatives, opposed Labour, thinks the cuts don't go deep enough, are focusing on the rising welfare bill, while the Mirror, which did back Labour, is showing the impact on individuals. And these are all government figures in the document published today, and 800,000 people would be hit. And of course, the estimate was 250,000 people will be pushed into poverty, including 50,000 children now. So the right will be cheering on the government and wanting to go further, and then the left will be criticising the government. And we've got to make a choice.
And of course, it's significant that the Mirror had taken this position because there's a lot of concern that this will probably be the biggest rebellion that the government has seen so far.
How many are we talking?
By
How many
Labour
MPs?
Well, 40 have signed a letter. Now, they probably won't all vote against. And if it stayed there, that would be OK. But the Financial Times is actually saying maybe 140 Labour MPs are expressing concern about this cut. And
you get abstentions as well as votes
against it. But I mean, potentially, if it was 140, that could, defeat the government. I mean, it won't get that far, but they are very worried and trying to handle it. And as we saw at Question Time today with the Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, trying to keep the line and keep her own party online.
And the Daily Mail's line, of course, is this is unsustainable and it is unaffordable and something needs to be done. But that will be interesting when it comes. Another big vote as well is on assisted dying. Daily Express says assisting dying law would be a wonderful present for mum, that mum being Esther Ranson, of course. But what's happening on Friday, and also how tight will that be?
Yeah, this is her daughter, Rebecca Wilcox, a big supporter of the bill. It's the third reading. If it passes, it has to go to the House of Lords, then come back to the Commons. But if it loses, that's it, it's gone. But the feeling is it'll be passed. Quite what the majority will be.
Although it is interesting that Esther Rantzen's, it's her 85th birthday present, and she's lived much longer than she thought she was going to live, bearing in mind that the rule is life expectancy of 6 months. She's lived, I think, now over 2 years.
Yeah, it's very hard to get an exact date when you're going to die with most terminal illnesses, in truth.
And what about the Prime Minister? Which way is he going? Because the Cabinet it seems to be split on this as well, doesn't it?
He's for it.
For it, yeah.
Health Secretary is against, Justice Secretary against. I think the Home Secretary's for. I think most of the Cabinet's for.
I mean, on balance, there seem to be slightly more MPs have switched against than have switched for, although there has been traffic in both directions, but not enough to suggest that it's going to go down on Friday. OK, we'll watch both of those, welfare cuts and assisted dying as well, and obviously watching the situation in Israel as well tonight. As I said, the Situation Room meeting at the White House is now over. President Putin is still speaking on the matter as well. Kevin, Adam, as ever, thank you. See you for more in the 11. Let's take a look at the weather.
Breathtaking views with clear skies ahead. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
So heatwave conditions are on the way for some parts of the country, with temperatures set to soar into the low 30s by the weekend. A mild start to Thursday morning. Most places dry under clear skies. Parts of western Scotland will be grey and damp with spots of drizzly rain. Any lingering cloud and patchy rain across Scotland will clear northwards to leave a largely dry and settled day with very warm or hot sunshine. It's worth noting that UV levels are at their highest at this time of year, of course. So breezier towards the southwest, the potential for an isolated shower or two to develop by the evening. Friday brings another warm and sunny day. There is a risk of some heavy showers across Ireland and western parts of Britain. The weekend then brings an increasing risk of thunderstorms as temperatures rise into the high 20s, possibly 30s.
Breathtaking views with clear skies ahead. Qatar Airways sponsors the weather.
So President Putin has been speaking. One line of note to bring you. I am ready to meet anyone on Ukraine, he said, including President Volodymyr Zelensky. He's also said it is important who will sign documents from Ukraine's side. It's important to ensure that Ukraine's next president does not dispute any future agreement. More to come.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
Live here from Washington.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.